Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm recording this on July 5th. I want to go over the news discussing the July 4th perspective in terms of conservatives versus ultra-liberals, the infighting. The European perspective, I think, is also an important feature of this story. Thank you for joining. Please help support the work that I do by donating. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. You can be a paid member to my Patreon channel. You can also be a paid member to my Substack channel. You can watch me on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble, TikTok, X, GETTR. There are many modalities that you can consume my content. So please help support the work that I do by sharing the links, subscribing, click the like button. In addition, I have great supplements. If you follow my advice and take the supplements that I'm taking, you're going to slow down the aging process. And it's very simple. It's about soaking up free radicals, bringing down inflammation, boosting up energy levels. And when you do that and you do this in a certain way, if you stack it a certain way, you're going to be able to improve different organ systems. When you do that continuously, then you're going to get that compounding effect, and you're going to be slowing down the aging process and reducing the methylation of your genes. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver lozenges. We're in the allergy season. If you're working in the home or in the yard, garage, whatever, you're going to be exposed to allergens. Make sure you take the lozenges. Manuka honey version or the orange splash. They'll help to neutralize the allergen, maintain that barrier for your oral pharynx. Really important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the orange splash or the Manuka honey structural nanosilver lozenges. So what I want to do is play this clip. It's from MS. It's from MS Now. It's going to be pushing the white supremacy of America, because there was a group of people, I wouldn't be surprised if they were tied to some sort of right-wing governmental agenda, who knows, but that's trying to demonize conservatives. But it has this kind of white supremacy nationalism ethos. They marched in Washington, D.C. yesterday, July 4th. The question is, who are they? Is it some sort of fringe group that is part of the deep state? Is it some sort of group that's trying to actually subvert conservatism and try to demonize them? Who knows? Who are these people that were marching on July 4th? They look a little suspicious. And they kind of look, they pop up once in a while. They popped up for the 2020 election. They seem to pop up during the 2024 election. Who are these people? Now, some theories are they're part of maybe some sort of FBI covert group. Maybe, who knows? But they look suspicious. That's one thing. But then you have the other side is that if they are nefarious actors trying to demonize conservatism, then the multiculturalists are taking the bait and trying to add fuel to this whole white supremacy thing that's popping up. I'm not too worried so much of the march on July 4th with I'll call them the white supremacists. Right? I'm not too worried about that. What's more worrisome is this ultra-liberal agenda where they want to take large elements of Marxism and apply it into their politic. So let's listen into MS Now and how they viewed the white supremacists marching in Washington, D.C. on July 4th. But keep in mind, we need to keep on asking the question, who are these people and why are they doing what they're doing? Are they trying to demonize conservatives or the conservative movement? Which conservatives do believe in a multicultural, multi-ethnic country. We just don't believe in communism. We don't believe in relativism. We believe in the Enlightenment. So with that, let's begin. Now, perhaps, maybe, they're not part of some covert group under the FBI. Maybe they're actually being funded by the left wing to try to demonize conservatives. You ever thought about that? Maybe these white supremacists aren't really white supremacists. They're just being funded to pretend they're white supremacists by the ultra-liberal.
Joining us now, Eddie Glaude Jr., MS now political analyst and professor at Princeton University. He's also the author of the new book, America USA, How Race Shadows the Nation's Anniversaries. And also with us, Michelle Norris, MS Now senior contributing editor. Thank you both for joining us this morning. I hope you are not nursing too bad of a July 4th hangover. But Eddie, I want to start with you and ask you about why you think that a part of our society is so comfortable in this moment in time in explicitly showing the double consciousness of American history that you so often talk about.
First of all, it's great to begin the morning with each of you. I think it's important to acknowledge that Donald Trump's administration, Donald Trump's political presence over the last 10 years has given a permission structure for the ugly underbelly of America to become more explicit. It used to be the case. I think part of the consensus.
Wait, we're only how many minutes in? We're only 1 minute in and 1 second, and he's saying Trump is at fault. Wait a minute, Trump wasn't even in politics during Obama. What about this Black Lives Matter stuff? This political charging that he's talking about, and the overtness of it, and taking the knee by Kaepernick, and disrespecting the American flag? No, that's coming from Obama. Let's not get it wrong here. Is a scholar, if he doesn't say anything negative about Obama and when it came to race relations, then he's not being honest. And oh, by the way, I don't think he does. I don't think he does bring that up. But it's always Trump's fault.
Century freedom movements was that kind of explicit racism was moved to the margins of American politics. You could engage in racial dog whistles, but you couldn't be explicitly racist. Just think about how David Duke kind of brought how he was treated and eventually marginalized. Think about Pat Buchanan and the way.
What about BLM burning down your town? Oh, because of police brutality. Really? What about them stealing from Foot Locker while their pants are hanging down to their calves? Well, that's okay, I guess. What about forcing people to take the knee that were white down the street? I mean, there's tons of videos on the internet about it. So let me get this straight here. Which side is wrong? Probably both sides are wrong here. The United States is a multicultural system. But when you have a group of people, either white or black or colored, that want superiority, it's a problem. And this is the problem that we have today. We have a constituency that's out there that is pushing for reparations. And it's buried under this democratic socialism. Weaken the country, open up the borders, have unfettered immigration. And when you do that, don't you think that there's going to be a whole lot less Caucasians and European descent and a whole lot more South American and Central American descent? That's what they're trying to do. Unfettered means you're not going to have a country. Same problem that happened with Europe. Unfettered immigration led to the Islamification of Europe. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to have the Islamification of the United States, but it's definitely going to change with unfettered immigration. And then when you do have borders and you have a certain quota system for immigration, they're whining. The ultra-liberals whining. How dare you? How dare you have immigration law? How dare you actually enforce that law? The illegal immigrant's supposed to have rights and privileges superseding an American citizen. Really? This is what we're talking about here. That's the issue. So when whites are pushing back to secure the border, to have a more controlled immigration policy, when individuals keep on pushing back on the Enlightenment, pushing back to support the Enlightenment, and individuals are pushing against ones that are for relativism, don't be surprised there's going to be a whole lot of tension. But it's only Trump. This all started under Trump. Yeah, right. What about BLM movement? What about that? Where they burned down the town? They're crazy. And then all of these organizations in corporate America and the universities bought into the big lie BLM and actually gave money to a fraudulent organization. Oh, okay. Now, should the white supremacists be walking around in DC on 4th of July? It's their right. It's called freedom of speech. But you gotta go a little deeper instead of just the surface level. Who's funding it? Who's funding it? Who's buying all of the uniforms and organizing it? And I would not be surprised that it's actually the ultra-left, not the ultra-right. And it so happens it's just
was embraced and then eventually marginalized. But now that sort of rhetoric, those dog whistles, no one engages in dog whistles anymore. It's just kind of foghorns. So I think there has been a permission structure to allow a certain segment of the country to declare that America must remain a white republic. And they're doing it in the midst of woke.
But yet the blacks have the ones that are on the left that are black, that are pushing, they have their own flag, they have their own national anthem, they kneel to the American flag. No, wait a minute. You stand up and you salute, or you cross your heart. You respect that American flag, and I don't care what race you are. See, what it is they want superiority. What about all those cases where you're starting to hear in the university or even in corporate, where they say, you cannot hire someone unless they are of color. And oh, by the way, they got to be like some sort of double minority. Color female or color homosexual or something like that. This country is going to go to war.
Air in the midst of communism and the like. So here we are, just dealing with the legacy of the country in full view in this moment, in this 250th year.
You know, Michelle, speaking of the ugly underbelly of the country, this legacy of our nation, I want to put up a startling set of.
Let me get this straight. There's so much white supremacy and there's no opportunity for blacks to have the American dream. Really? Okay, wait a minute here. You have on this panel of 5, 4/5 are black. So over time, they are rising up and contributing to society. Now, I don't believe in their left-wing politics because they're trying to push for reparations. Believe me on this. They're not looking for equality, they're looking for superiority. That's what they're looking for here. But it's white supremacy America that's holding them down. Doesn't look like it. What the issue is isn't white America. What the issue is an America that is aligned with the Enlightenment. An America that's aligned with God, country, and family. Not an America that's communist. Not an America that is relativistic. Not an America where anything goes. Because when you have that, you have chaos. And when you have that, you won't have the cohesion within the country. Now, America is great because of the Enlightenment, not because of relativism.
Let's put it up.
How are you finding the time to send over all these meeting notes?
I got a secret. I've been using granola.
What is granola?
So it's an AI notepad. If you want to take notes during the meeting, granola can fill in everything around that. If you don't, it'll still give you a full write-up for that meeting.
Okay, so do I take notes or not?
It's up to you.
Let's put it up. There's the black women on the metro here in Washington, surrounded by those folks from the Patriot Front, and then on the left is that classic photo of Elizabeth Eckford surrounded by fellow students at Little Rock Central High School. She is one of the Little Rock Nine. The parallels here, the symmetry here is startling, Michelle.
That photo is probably Pulitzer worthy. It's a little early to start talking about that, but that photo is one instance of a woman on a bus surrounded by people who are wearing masks, who are about to march in Washington carrying Confederate flags. But I see that photo and I see America's workplaces. I see America's school systems, and those men are wearing masks, but they go and they surround women like her in their workplaces. They will go back to a place where they can take off their mask, and then they will be working someplace where their noxious ideas, will be put in place in hiring decision.
What about when the bitch boss is black, only hiring a certain ethnicity? Well, what about that? What about when HR takes over and they're ultra liberal? Are they really colorblind when doing their hiring practices? No. This is what I mean about they're trying to push for superiority. This is the reason why SCOTUS struck down the whole idea of affirmative action. All right? It's all about merit. It's about merit. About what you can do. If you don't have the merit, you don't deserve the job. If you don't have the merit, you don't deserve the slot in academia. Get the merit. Work hard. Oh, you didn't get it? Oh, try again, try again, try again, try again. That's the American way. Fail until you succeed. All right? But what is happening is that over time you're starting to see people are moving away from the Enlightenment and towards relativism. Is the society better with this or worse? I have a decent amount of years to look at American society while I've been on this earth, and I'm telling you, it's getting worse, not better. Now, why is that? It's not because of blacks rising up. It's not because of Latinos rising up. It's not because of our workplace is more multicultural. It's because of which philosophical framework you align to. If you have a society that doesn't align to the Enlightenment, don't be surprised that you get the problems that we have. Why is it that the far majority of the people that steal from Foot Locker are black? Why is it that the far majority of the people in New York City that we see stores getting raided are black? Why is it that when you look at your town and housing prices. Housing prices have a tendency to go down when it reaches a certain threshold of blacks in your neighborhood. Why is that? It's not because of the inherentness of being black. That's not the issue. It brings down the school systems because the students aren't doing as well. There's more crime. There's more instability in the town. Now, that doesn't mean it's always like that. But let's just, I mean, these people, even they're wealthy, even the wealthy ones that are black, they're a little worried that maybe if the neighborhood that they're in becomes too multicultural, that it may become a little seedy and the school system starts to collapse, the tax base starts to collapse. It's not about the actual color of the skin. It's the attitude. It's which framework of philosophy they align with. That's the problem. It's about the Enlightenment versus relativism. And with relativism, society starts to evolve. Karl Marx comes out of relativism. He's coming right out of that whole postmodern relativism. What about blacks that think that they feel as though it's their right to take advantage of business owners? What about the blacks that feel as though it's their right to actually push for reparations? Now, the ultra liberals are smart. A certain majority of them, a certain segment of them are smart. They get into law, and then they get into lower courts, and they're lawyers. So they become lawyers, and so they're pushing this progressive agenda in the legislative branch of our government. I'm sorry, not in the legislative branch, in the judicial branch of our government. They're pushing these boundaries, okay? And then the judges who get the low court judges who are elected, not based on how competent they are, it's just if they're likable. They go to a low level circuit judge, and if they have a certain agenda, even if the law is for the white guy, they may actually pepper it in and help the minority, even though it's not legal. And it has to go to an appeals court to rectify it because the lower court judge actually ruled wrong. Didn't rule properly because of statutes or the law or whatever. But the only recourse for a non-colored individual is to actually use the appeals court. So it costs money and time. And they know this. They know this. And they're using it. People need to wake up on what's happening. Why don't they talk about this? Why don't they talk about how minorities have become lawyers, pushing a progressive agenda even at the low court system level? They're not following the law. And as they start to gain more momentum in Congress, let's just assume, let's just do this mind experiment. What happens when the majority of the House and the Senate are people like AOC or this democratic socialism? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think we'll have equality or more inequality? It's going to be more inequality. And there's going to be a push for reparations. There's going to be a push for taking your property. And it's going to be slow. It's going to start with higher taxes, taking away property from landlords, and then slowly chip away. Well, maybe we should be taxing your unrealized gains at a certain level and just slowly chip away and chip away and chip away and chip away. That's reparations. just under a different name. That's why there are people of non-color that are pushing back, because they see this as coming. Now, who actually funded these white supremacists? I don't know. I have a feeling, though, there are nefarious actors funding this to try to push a certain agenda, and I would not be surprised if it is actually the ultra-left to try to demonize conservatives.
In decisions about who gets a mortgage and who doesn't. However, when I look at them marching, trying to project power, I don't see power, I see fear.
The bottom line is the laws when it comes to mortgages is that, can you afford it or not? Do you have a history of good credit or not? Unfortunately, there are a lot of individuals that are of color that have poor credit history. And oh, by the way, they have a tendency to actually use the bankruptcy courts multiple times because they don't want to take responsibility for themselves. Another progressive tactic to using the court system to taking away from other people. Because when you are filing for bankruptcy and you charged up that credit card and it's being now absolved, well, you stole from the bank. Well, it's all whitewashed, everything is fine, you filed for chapter 7 or chapter 11 or 13 or whatever, and it's everything is absolved. It's still on your credit. But the thing is that you have a second chance. Okay, second chance. Well, wait a minute here. You can do that every 8 years. And people have. So they don't take responsibility. And nor do they learn from their mistakes. And so they become habitual. And this is part of the reason why they don't get a mortgage. Why didn't she bring that up? And it's running rampant in the country. If you don't believe me, type in Grok and ask, in the United States, are there higher levels of rental application fraud and higher levels of repeat bankruptcies in minority groups? And you're going to find out that the answer is yes. And it seemed to have started during the COVID years. She doesn't bring that up.
I see the projection of fear. I see people who are afraid of a future that has already arrived. They are afraid of an America that is multicultural. They are worried about a multicultural democracy. They are worried about losing power. They want to create an America where white people and white men are dominant. And, America has to then decide, do we want to hold on to our superpower status? Do we want to be prominent in the world, or do we want to be a supremacist nation? Because, if we do not produce enough college-educated white men to drive our GDP. When you go to the doctor, who is serving you? When you go to the hospital, who is serving you? When you look at our economy, who is holding it up with their hands and their shoulders and their intellect and their hard work? That is the America that keep moving us forward. And the people who are fighting for this supremacist idea, these supremacist ideas, are willing to sacrifice all of that for the sake of their own power structure and this need to feel like they are above someone else. They are willing to put America in a lower position globally in order to continue to elevate themselves.
Those losers that were walking around DC with those masks on yesterday, Michelle, when I see folks like that, I see exactly what you see when you say you see fear, because they know what they have done with being the majority in this country. And so their concern is that we, black women, black and brown folks who at some point will inherit the majority of this country, will do the same thing to them that they have done to us. I'm gonna say that before I play. I'm gonna move on because I'm getting a little emotional.
Yeah, see, the black man can't get his act together because he's getting a little emotional. All right. Let's look at this in terms of individuals, adults, getting a bachelor's degree or higher, all right, and this is based on the 2024 Pew Census figures. Whites, non-Hispanics, 39 to 41%. Blacks, 25 to 27%. Hispanics, 20 to 22%. And Asians, 59%. Now, when it comes to for young adults, 25 to 29 years of age, whites, 45 to 46%, blacks, 28 to 30%, Hispanics, 23 to 25%, and Asians, 72%. Now, what do you get from this information? One, there are actually more whites that graduate than blacks or Hispanics. Okay. If you add in blacks and Hispanics together, they're either equal to whites or slightly higher. Asians, as a group, are way above the graduation numbers by a lot. It's hard work. Asians work harder. And if you notice, most Asians, they're more harder work. They're harder working. They don't complain as much. They're more resilient. They have a tendency to behave. They seem to have an alignment with God, country, and family. They don't align themselves as a group towards this postmodernism. They're very patriotic. So what Michelle should be saying is that the black man and the black woman should stop whining about the white guy and start looking in the mirror and saying, what are they doing wrong? What is the black constituency doing wrong? And maybe they should just work harder and behave and stop looking like a thug and take some lessons from Asians. Now, I have thought this for over a year now. I think the future of the United States will be the Asian community. But it's not because of their color. It's because of their attitude. And this gets back to my main theme here. It's about the Enlightenment. Working hard, God, country, and family. That's it. Has nothing to do with your color. It's that fortitude. Now, for whites, for many centuries, it was that Protestant worth ethic. Now, it happened to be it had a religious tone to it, but it was about the worth ethic and that perseverance and that stoicism. Do we see stoicism with these clowns? I see a bunch of whining.
Spoke yesterday about people who criticize America and what that means. And I want you guys to listen to this.
You will hear a couple small but loud voices today speak obsessively not of our national greatness, but of our national imperfections. They will speak of the powerless and the dispossessed. They will tell you that America is just another country where the weak struggle against the strong. So what I'd ask you to do, my fellow Americans.
See, it's all about relativism. He's not mentioning it, but it's these individuals out there think that anything goes. It's all relative. There's nothing special about what made this country so great. And I think it goes all the way back to that Protestant worth ethic. And that's aligned with this Enlightenment. Not relativism. And the future of the United States will be Asians. And I think it'll be a good thing because they are more aligned to getting the job done. Not being a bunch of whiners. Do you randomly go on CNN or MS Now or Fox News or whatever and see a bunch of Asians stealing from Foot Locker? You can randomly go on any channel, local channel, and they have stories about a group of hoodlums coming in and breaking into a storefront and stealing Pokemon cards or jewelry or whatever, or going apeshit at a restaurant. You don't see that with an Asian. Why is that? Why is it that you see it more often with blacks? Why is that?
On our 250th birthday is to reject the two-dimensional view of your fellow citizens and reject the two-dimensional view of your country.
Speak obsessively not of our national greatness, but of our national imperfections. Donald Trump, Eddie Glaude, has only done that for years. He started his political career by doing that. He has talked about the crumbling America for a decade. So he could be talking about the president here. I think he's pretending like he's not. But even Donald Trump knows that if you seemingly love a country, that you should be able to say what you want and criticize it. So what is the J.D. Vance talking about here?
Well, let's put that. We could just look at the American Carnage speech, right, and just give an example of exactly what you're talking about. But I want you to understand, Eugene, that this is an ideological position. They reject more perfect union talk altogether because for them, America's perfection was secure.
No, a more perfect union will never achieve will never achieve a perfect union, and over time you just become more perfect. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be moving away from the Enlightenment and going into relativism. That doesn't mean, as we're on the journey of making a more perfect union, that we should keep on aborting fetuses. That doesn't mean, as we move towards a more perfect union, that we should erode patriotism. That doesn't mean that as we move towards a more perfect union that we should be a bunch of atheists. See, this is the problem. You have this multicultural aspect that aligns itself with the Enlightenment, it aligns itself with relativism, not the Enlightenment, and you start to have problems. And don't be surprised that the actual society will be as productive. Now, thank God, 20% of the population is aligned with the Enlightenment. 20% of the population wants God, country, and family. And because of that, 80% just ride the coattails of those 20%. So there's nothing wrong with a more perfect union, as long as it's aligned with the Enlightenment. And as we're moving toward a more perfect union, why are they stealing shoes from Foot Locker? I mean, come on.
In its founding. And it's all we need to do is to remember and restore. To talk about more perfect union is to talk about all of the failings, right? The failures with regards to slavery, with regards to women, with regards to child labor, with regards to workers and the like, right? So for them, that kind of conversation, right? It's
talking about our history is important, but we don't have slavery anymore. Women have the right to vote. So what is the issue here? Child labor law issues? Well, wait a minute. You can't even. People can't even find it. But young people can't find jobs. What world is he living in? He's living in the 1800s. He's not living in 2026. Let's talk about 2026. If you work hard, you can get a job. If you buckle down and learn a skill, you can get a good job. If you are a decent citizen, your society will flourish and the home prices will go up. But if you start being a drug addict and being all tattooed and not paying attention to ethics, then don't be surprised that your society goes to shit. So what is he talking about? Yeah, the history of the United States had these episodes that were not the best for a country, and it's important to learn from them, but blacks have rights just as much as anyone else. All what it is that they want to be equal results. Well, what they want really is give it to me. I want the accolades and the end result without really trying. Is that what he's talking about? What is he saying here? Yeah, we have had a history of slavery, but yet you can vote now. There was the abolishment of slavery. We fought a war about it. I mean, we had the civil rights movement and all this stuff. Blacks have more opportunity now than ever in American history. Why are they still stealing shoes from Foot Locker?
Country and opens up this kind of multicultural imagining of America, this multiracial imagining of America. They want to shut that down. J.D. Vance wants us to simply shut up, those of us who look like me, right? They want us to shut up and be grateful. That's what they want us to do.
No.
And I think
I want you to be a scholar because he's a scholar. I want you to be a scholar and write books about the history of our country and an analysis of it. But don't push for reparations. Don't push for this idea of a relativistic society, because that won't be productive. And the things that you're promoting have a tendency to be latched on by democratic socialists. I mean, communists. Ones that want to redistribute wealth, ones that want to take over the means of production. They want state control. They want a one-party government. They want to abolish our Constitution. They want to abolish our constitutional republic. People that latch on to these ideas. Well, wait a minute here. They want a one-party system. They want to have the means of production. Doesn't that sound like the Soviet Union? Doesn't that sound like Karl Marx? And then you start hearing, we need to get rid of the electoral college and it should be just a popular vote. Well, wait a minute here. The founding of our country was the realization of state rights. If you take away the electoral college, now what you have done is moved the states with highest population to have the most control of the country. Now let's think about what the Declaration of Independence really means. It means shedding the yoke of the King of England, and that states will have their determination for their society, and therefore each state has a constitution. So individuals that want to eliminate the electoral college actually don't believe in state rights. They believe in a federal government, top down, and states don't have authority. Really? Wait a minute. There were states out there that were against slavery and had it written in their constitution. But I guess they don't think that was a good idea. So, these individuals that are from the ultra left, they want to get rid of the electoral college. They want to just have popular vote for the general election. Well, wait a minute. How? Shouldn't each state have equal chance, equal authority to project their desire for the president of the United States? Do we want federalism, or do we want this mixture between state rights and federalism, which is what our country is? Now, if we only had states' rights and no federalism, then we have a problem. because who's going to coordinate at the larger level? But if you don't have states' rights, then you have just a federalist government, and now the states don't have recourse. You got to go back to what the Declaration of Independence really meant. States. It was about states' rights. Now, what the Constitution represented was what the states. The Constitution, in its early form, was about how the federal government would be bound or restricted in terms of what it could do at the federal level and what the states could do. So it restricted federalism and bound the country together for security, national security. Now, they used different terms than what we use today, but that was basically what the Constitution was about. The Declaration of Independence was shedding the yoke of the king and the establishment of individual states, individual countries.
To understand the way in which they're mobilizing the founding for their white supremacist ends. And J.D. Vance tries to put it in kind of flowery language or makes it sound reasonable. But at the end of the day, what he's arguing, right, is that America is more than an idea. America is rooted in a culture that is fundamentally about blood and soil. Donald Trump said that in front of Mount Rushmore. He said, what? He said, American identity, American freedom. There's no American freedom without American culture. That's a quote. And so I think we need to understand these folks for who they are and name the devil that has us by the throat.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Wait. What's wrong with saying American freedom is predicated on American culture? American culture, this is the point I'm making. American culture is tied to the Enlightenment, not relativism. American culture. Now, why can't you, as a black person, realize that you're just as part of the American culture as a white person? What's wrong with that? Just make sure that you're aligned with the Enlightenment. Make sure that you're aligned with God, country, and family. Make sure that you're about pulling up your pants, brushing your teeth, and making your bed. Not this relativism that anything goes. And with relativism, look at modern art. Modern art's a piece of crap. Don't be surprised that if people align their philosophy politically to relativism, that your politics are a pile of crap. Just like modern art. No, what it is blacks want their culture. Now, I don't know what, I have nothing in common with, quote, this black culture. They want their own national anthem, their own flag, disrespect the American flag. Well, this is the reason why there's a pushback by the president and J.D. Vance. Freedom, American freedom is predicated on American culture. But with relativism, they want to destroy this American culture. They want to destroy the Protestant worth ethic. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be Protestant, but the whole point was there was stoicism and hard work. It was about meritocracy. Not stealing from Foot Locker.
For sure.
So let's get a little bit into Donald Trump's message last night and what he had to say about the semi-quincentennial.
Unlike so many others in the world, in this country, we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, equal justice under the law, although I wasn't treated that well, but we won't get into that. We rebuilt our military in my first term. We used it a little bit in our...
Now think about it, equal justice under the law. But when you have lawyers pushing progressive agendas and you have judges that are progressives at the lower court level, they can push an agenda that's actually against the law. And the individual that's harmed from it has to go to the appeals court to get an overturned ruling. Overturn the ruling, all right? There's not equal justice with these progressive, and they did it on purpose. The law schools, the law professors, they knew what they were doing. Because if you can chip away at this enlightenment that I'm talking about by pushing more progressives through law school. And when they don't work in the profession, where do they go? They go to MS Now and are talking heads. Pushing a progressive agenda. Beware of the progressive lawyer.
Third term, but I won't do that because I don't want any controversy.
If you don't understand conflict, you are very easy to manipulate. I've spent the past 20 years in all.
When I was rewatching the speech this morning, I'm sorry to say I was not able to stay awake last night to function in real time. Despite the fireworks' best efforts to keep me awake, it was hard for me not to think of the other major moment that we just saw in this country that you were witness to, which was the opening of the Obama Presidential Center.
Think about that. There was some deep meaning in what she just said. She couldn't stay awake because it was so late. First of all, I saw the whole thing and the fireworks after. That was for the 4th of July, and I also saw the speech at Mount Rushmore with the fireworks after. Now, she probably has to wake up early for the show, probably 4 o'clock in the morning, but either way. And this professor who probably doesn't have to wake up early in the morning. All right. He made a hand gesture agreeing with her. This is the point that I was making about the Stoicism. Sometimes you just have to push, even though it's out of your comfort zone. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you are just getting by financially. Whatever it is, you got to keep moving. You have to be stoic. But here, you got you had 2 people out of the panel here of 5 that didn't seem to have stoicism. See, when I do an analysis of things and pick up patterns, because I'm really good at pattern recognition, right? When I pick up patterns of social systems, of complex things like pathogens or the economy or financial markets, complex stuff, I pick up stuff very, very, very quickly. More so than most people. And I'm telling you, these people don't have what it takes, the grit, the stoicism to move the ball forward, to make this union more perfect.
In contrasting these 2 speeches, what are your takeaways about today's Republican and Democratic Party?
I'm glad you mentioned the opening of the Obama Presidential Center, which had its own 250th celebration on the patio open to the public in Chicago, because that was another split screen moment of 2 very distinct Americas on display. When they planned that center, they could not have known that it would open in the midst of rising autocracy in this country.
Wait a minute here. Barack Obama's library is designed in postmodern architecture, which aligned with postmodern philosophy of relativism. It looks like a piece of shit. It looks like a garbage can.
You see, they're 2 very different ideas of an America from 2 very, very different leaders. One who is perplexed by the other, and one who, again, I just go back to fear, who seems to be afraid of the other one. Barack Obama owns a lot of real estate in Donald Trump's head, and he continually talks about, how he's trying to fix something that was broken, that, was looking for a problem that doesn't exist. But I want to go back to what J.D. Vance was talking about and trying to prevent America from looking at its flaws Mandani gave an interesting counter speech, talking about immigration yesterday. And one of the things he talked about is how patriotism is about embracing the ideas of America, but also confronting its flaws and doing both at the same time. And one of the things that concerns me about the hijacking of the semi-sesquicentennial, this important milestone in America, is the idea that one party, one faction really of the party, the Republican Party, would try to take the American flag and wrest it away from its people. And as I talk to you, the flag is flying in front of our house. And, I yesterday went to a reading of Frederick Douglass's speech, what to a neighbor was the 4th of July. And I understand the founding contradictions of this country, but I really worry about the idea that the faction of this party wants to take the flag away from all of us, wants to remove the centrality of that symbol from the people who built this country, because that flag holds our pain and our plunder. It holds our bounty as well. And it's important, I think.
This country is a big tent. It can hold everybody as long as you're not a communist. Secondly, don't push reparations, because stop sugarcoating this. The progressives are pushing for reparations in some form. And when that does happen, race relations will go backward 150 years.
Understand that patriotism is needed in this moment. Patriotism is not just about flying a flag and saying who's on top and who's on the bottom. The true patriotism is trying to fix a country that has flaws, is trying to understand how to push a country forward. And that is one of the things that I'm very concerned about in the celebration of the 250th, is that they took it away from America and they made it all about Donald Trump, which is one of the reasons I'm not directly answering your question, because I don't want to talk about him. Actually, I want to talk about American people and what this means to them in imagining a future that they deserve.
Yeah, imagining a future that they deserve. These are really nice words, but what do they really mean? What are the top 2 things that she needs to have fixed? And I guarantee you what happened. They never answered that question. But I bet it converges to this main theme of taking away property. I bet it converges to the theme of reparations of some form. What is it? Give the top 2 things that need to be fixed in terms of this, to have a more perfect union. Just 2 things. What are they? They can't answer the question. They won't answer the question. They know exactly what they're doing here. I'm telling you, it's about reparations. All right. Since we are going to go to another clip, let's talk about some supplements that will help to improve your health. Because we have to fight for the republic, right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you're noticing a lot of the things that are out there that they're talking about just seem to be in the fog and you just don't understand, get the Clarity Factor. Clarity Factor will get rid of that brain fog, allow you to concentrate, to make sure that you can drill down and push back on the socialists. And Clarity Factor will help with your memory and your cognition. You'll be able to think faster. Your memory will improve. It will help over time to build those dendritic connections, improve your neural network, and help with brain function. So please, take the Clarity Factor every day. It's super important. Omega-3 helps with cardiovascular health, brings down inflammation, helps you to control your lipid profile, and helps to reduce the over-stickiness of red blood cells. Very important to take every day to help with your cardiovascular. Probiotics, super important as a base to improve your health and to slow down the aging process. You can get it in veggie cap form or the powdered form. Either one, take every day. This will help to improve your gut biome, maintain and improve the mucosal layer, help to improve the health of the lining of your gut, increase your IgA, and improve your immune system at the gut level, improve your skin, Also improve your sleeping pattern. A good gut biome will help you to get into 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. You're going to be detoxifying your central nervous system when you sleep well. You're going to consolidate memory so your memory will improve just because your gut. A lot of people don't understand that all these different systems are in connection with each other. And stop eating crappy food, because eating that processed food causes gut problems and affects the gut biome. So please go to my store and get the very high quality probiotics, either in the veggie cap form or the powdered form. And take this stack to really supercharge the anti-aging process. Ashwagandha root helps to control the cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels. Lignans helps to improve your immune system and your endocrine system, bring down inflammation and soak up free radicals. And ashwagandha root soaks up free radicals and brings down inflammation. You'll be able to recover quicker after a workout by taking these supplements. You're going to have more energy, your immune system will improve, your endocrine system will improve. By bringing down inflammation, soaking up free radicals, you're helping your cardiovascular health. You're also improving your brain function, keeping that inflammation down and soaking up those free radicals. Those neurons will perform better. You can take these separately, but I highly recommend that you stack them together for the synergistic effect. Turmeric, lignans, and ashwagandha root work very well together to slow down the aging process. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you get $5 off. All right, let's go to some more wonderful clips. Let's listen into Mondani's wife stuns by skipping 4th of July event for Islamic wellness retreat in Spain. See what I mean? Is it about the country? They don't care about the country. They're all about themselves, just like every communist. Napoleon the pig said to the animals on Animal Farm that all the animals are free. All the animals are going to be treated equal. But some animals are more equal than others. And Napoleon the pig ended up ruling as an emperor the farm. Mondani is Napoleon the pig.
They put the plate down like it's a piece of art. They make me feel that way.
It just spontaneously happened. These were inspired events, and to have that, again, humility to be able to say, yeah, the country, that flag that don't.
The America's heroes here on the National Mall last night while condemning communism that they risked their lives to take down.
The entire world has been on notice that Americans will never let anyone take our freedom away. It won't happen. And all these talks from the communists, they haven't got a chance. Not even a chance. The communist system is the opposite of the American system, and the communist system has never worked. Our warriors did not fight communism on battlefields across the world, only to have that menace rear its ugly head right back here in America. We're not going to let it happen.
Not going to let it happen. Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz joining us now. Good morning, Jason. We've got a couple things we want to talk to you about, but just processing what we witnessed here in the mall, that remarkable speech, which was optimistic largely, but also taking head on the threat of communism that we're seeing rising in corners of the country. What was your reaction?
I love Donald Trump because he loves our country, he loves the flag, and he loves the American people. I mean, that's the fundamental difference between what we see today in Republicans and led by Donald Trump and the communists and the Democratic Party of today. They hate America. They want to tear it down. They think it's wrong. They're embarrassed by it. They threaten to leave the country. I wish they would, because those of us who live in the heartland, who have relatives and people who have come to this country and fought for its freedoms, That's the real America. And that's the one that Donald Trump loves. And that's what he personified. And that's what he explained to the American people. And he was spot on. I thought it was pitch perfect with an amazing show, making our country proud. And it was just an amazing, amazing night.
How important is it for politicians, especially at the level of President Trump, to explicitly call out communism and the dangers of communism?
Yeah, Charlie, you're exactly right. You got to call it out for exactly what it is, because oftentimes it gets disguised. It gets disguised with a smiley face and an Instagram account and telling everybody, oh, everything's free. We shouldn't have millionaires and billionaires. There shouldn't be success and prosperity in our country. But I think we've got a lot to do in terms of our education of our children. We got to deal with fatherless homes. And if we're going to get our country really moving to where it needs to be, those are the types of things. And we need to also, I think, recognizing
he's playing right into what I'm saying: God, country, and family. Responsibility, meritocracy, the Enlightenment, Stoicism, the Protestant worth ethic.
Humility, that these freedoms, they're God-given. They were inspired. I believe that the founding documents were inspired. They were not just a coincidental Big Bang theory that it just spontaneously happened. These were inspired events, and to have that, again, humility to be able to say, yeah, the country, that flag that Donald Trump is standing right next to on the screen right now, it's bigger than all of us, and it's what unites us.
You know, Jason, one of the things that the president brought up is that communism is incompatible with America, freedom, and democracy. And just we're learning this morning. We were actually a little bit in shock. We had to make sure it wasn't a joke. But we're learning that Mamdani's wife, Rama Duwaji, decided on her first, 4th of July as the First Lady of New York City that she did not want to attend the 250th birthday bash in New York City with her husband, the mayor. Instead, she went on a wellness retreat, a Muslim Islamic spiritual wellness retreat in Mallorca. Now, you've been in politics a long time.
The United States is being run by a bunch of individuals that don't care about the country. It's all about themselves. It's pushing a certain religious agenda, pushing a certain politic that is antithetical to our founding. It's amazing. It's amazing how stupid New Yorkers are to allow this to even happen. But just the hubris of this woman. God. Islamic spiritual retreat in Spain. Are you kidding me?
What is the message that she's sending? Because I don't think that this was unintentional.
I don't think it was an accident. These people do not like America. Yep. They want to fundamentally change it. They're embarrassed by it. And that's what's just so wrong. The policies need to be called out. Again, they put a smiley face, they wave to the crowd and do all that. But they don't believe in things like self-determination and success, prosperity, liberty, freedom. These are the types of things and principles that I grew up with, that you all grew up with. I think most of America grew up with. But these people, they're so ungrateful. They just don't like the country, and they need to be called out for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Jason. I think this was absolutely intentional. I always say, if you want to understand a politician, look at his wife. I think she was sending a message. He had to be there, but she was sending a message that this just wasn't important enough for her. And it's a really sad decision, but it's the decision that New York City made as well. And those actions have consequences.
Jason just praised that he gets judged by his wife.
Oh, I know his wife. He's a lucky guy.
That's the only thing I got going with me.
The only thing.
Yeah. She was the one cooking the burgers last night. We did sparklers with family and grandkids. There is nothing more American than a 5-year-old waving a sparkler ready to poke somebody's eye out than
Amen to that.
Grandpa Chaffetz running around looking to everybody's not poking their eyes out.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help save the Republic by getting vitamin C and magnesium. Vitamin C and magnesium will help your skin. It will help with your immune system and help with your brain function so you don't turn into a crazy liberal. Magnesium and zinc helps with brain function and boosts up your immune system. Myotrol helps to build muscle. If you're 40 years of age or older, this will help with the gene expression to build muscle, reduce atrophy, help the health of your mitochondria so you have the energy to maintain the muscle. Myotrol is perfect for people that are 40 years of age or older. This has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression. Good night formula. Take it every night. This has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower, so you can get into 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep to detoxify your central nervous system, to consolidate memory, and to be well rested. This is super important to help to improve those neural connections. You'll be able to think faster, have better memory, and slow down the aging process and reduce the chances of dementia. Super important to take. Get the good night formula. Vitamin D3. It's a dual purpose supplement. It helps with gene expression. It's a gene expression cofactor. It helps to get rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis if they're infected. That's why you take it during the cold season. And vitamin D3 helps with the cardiovascular health and helps to build bones, bone density. Vitamin B complex, if you're 40 years of age or older, take it. This is going to boost up your energy levels. The first 4 B vitamins in this complex will help the electron transport chain to increase the concentrations of ATP, your energy source. Super important. Revs up cellular metabolism and protects neurons through vitamin B12. Resveratrol helps with youthful gene expression, gets rid of cells that are in senescence, helps to soak up free radicals and improve the mitochondria so you have more energy. And it helps the basal layer of your skin. Stacks really well with C60 to improve your skin. You will look younger by taking resveratrol, but not just look younger, you will be younger. Why? Because it helps with youthful gene expression. Digestive enzyme complex. This will help to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids and reduce the load on your pancreas. Super important. And this has bromelain, helps to break up clots. And it has the proteolytic enzymes to break up glycoproteins. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support the work that I do and help support your health and wellness. You stack these supplements, you're going to slow down the aging process and target all these different things: energy levels, metabolism, protecting your neurons, getting proper sleep, bringing down inflammation, building muscle. By building muscle, you're also protecting your brain because you're increasing the concentrations of myokines and BDNF, which are neuroprotective. So please go to my store, take my advice, and you will slow down the aging process. It works and it's affordable. Make sure you use discount 5 to make it even more affordable. Let's listen into Fox News interviewing Bill de Blasio.
Zoran Marxist Kami Mamdani. He's friends with, by the way, our next guest. And that's former New York City Mayor, Comrade Bill de Blasio. You know, I used to say that affectionately. They almost make you look moderate. And you were not a moderate, just for the record. I'm going to take that as a compliment, Sean. Thank you. All right. Let me go through. Look, yeah. Wait. You were such a crucial figure in the growth of the MAGA movement, which to a lot of mainstream Republicans was considered absolutely radical. Outrageous things were said by Donald Trump and a lot of the folks in MAGA that never would have been said by Republicans before. And yet it tapped into something that a lot of Americans were concerned about and were feeling. I don't know why there's a double standard here. So on the left of the Democratic Party, you're hearing some really blunt, I don't agree with all of it, obviously, but some really blunt sense that the status quo is not working in America. I think that's part of what Donald Trump was saying in his own way. So I don't think it's surprising that given everything.
Cluttered cloud storage, that's a lot to carry.
I don't think it's surprising that given everything that's wrong in our economy, given how much people are struggling to make ends meet, that candidates who are saying this status quo is broken are actually going to get this kind of energy and enthusiasm behind them.
Okay, let's take a look at the three candidates that your friend Zoran Marxist-Kami Mondani supported.
I'd like to give him two middle names there, two middle names.
Well, I only gave you one. Maybe that means I like him more. I don't know. I kind of like you more because you're more willing to come on the program. Let me go through the record, for example, of one of the people that he helped elect. And this woman, Darlazia, whatever her name, Chevalier, here are her positions. Because I think people need to really understand fundamentally where they stay. She, again, they call themselves democratic socialists, but she wants to abolish the police completely. Let's go through it all. She wants to abolish America's prisons completely. She wants no American borders completely. She doesn't want anybody deported, even people, illegals, convicted of murder and rape. A day after October the 7th, she showed up at a pro-Hamas rally in Times Square. That would be the equivalent of losing 40,000 Americans in a day if you extrapolate out the population. Brags about using the American flag to wipe her hands. Now, is that your party? Is that who you are? Would you vote for her?
Sean, the question is, why did the people of that district vote for her?
No. That's your question. I asked you a different question. My question is, would you vote for her?
She is the Democratic nominee. I would vote for her, yes. But let me tell you what's going on here, because you can do your list. Sean, you can do your list. But what's really happening is she spoke out against what America's been doing in the Middle East, and a lot of Americans, Sean, a clear majority of Americans do not think we should be in a war with Iran, including a lot of people who support Donald Trump. A clear majority of Americans think that what the Netanyahu government has done in Israel, the Palestinian people, and America should not be supporting.
I'm just letting me finish. Let me finish talking about it. No. We're not talking about
Wait. The question
we are talking about. She wants to abolish the police. She wants no borders. She wants illegals that commit murder and rape to not go to prison. And I'm asking you. You are the mayor of New York City. I'm asking you if you would vote for this lady, and you're telling me yes? You'd vote for this lunatic?
I'll tell you what. No, I don't think
because she's a Democrat.
Sean, I can't believe you've never voted for someone you had some disagreements with. I disagree with her on something, but I want you, Sean, for you and your many, many viewers, this is what's going on in the Democratic Party. A lot of people who vote Democrat are saying, we want to see Democrats take on Trump, not cower before him. They think ICE is totally broken. I believe in secure borders. I don't believe in ICE. They think what we're doing in the Middle East is wrong. They think that nothing's being done to address the cost of living. You go down this list. When these candidates talk about Medicare for all, there's a whole lot of Americans who would like to have better health insurance, who can't make ends meet. So I think you should realize why people
Mr. Mayor,
because they represent change.
You would never abolish the police. You would secure the border. She wants to seize public property. She doesn't want private ownership of property. Now, you're telling me
a single member of Congress doesn't make those decisions.
You are the mayor of New York City. You're telling me that this does not seem so over the top that it's going to destroy your party. I think she, Mamdani, AOC, Bernie, Pocahontas, Mamdani, I think you guys are destroying your party. So I guess I'm okay with it.
Sean, first of all, Bernie Sanders is at this moment.
Guys, you see this? This is going to replace the entire cleaning aisle at Walmart in the next 6 months.
First of all, Bernie Sanders is at this moment the most popular political figure in America. A lot of people who voted for Donald Trump would very comfortably vote for Bernie Sanders too, because they want to see someone who's going to address the fact that their families are not doing well enough economically and their kids don't have enough future economically. And Donald Trump
has not given an answer. The war in Iran made things worse for our economy, made things worse for people trying to pay the bills at the kitchen table. So now you have a group of Democrats who say, we don't accept the status quo. We don't accept the big corporate donations. We don't want to go to fancy cocktail parties. But you don't. We want to be a different Democratic Party. And wait. That's a Democratic Party that can actually win. I said last year with Mondani.
So you're saying to me, I want to be clear.
Affordability, and that's actually how Democrats will win, because that's what Democrats are always supposed to have been about.
A Democratic Party that wants to completely abolish the police, that wants to abolish American borders. Hold on. That's what she stands for, and you said you vote for her. She doesn't want anybody deported. She doesn't want anybody deported. She wants the means of production and private property.
You can do this thing, my friend. You can do your.
They're always talking over each other. It's just like you can never play. They're the only way that we're going to be able to get the public interested and knowledgeable of the issues at hand is to actually have time and listen to one side and listen to the other side and make your decision. I've made my decision. It's about the Enlightenment. Others are still confused, right? Sean Hannity isn't paying attention to what I hated de Blasio. I thought he was a terrible mayor, but actually he was a better mayor than I think what Mondani will represent. But de Blasio is saying something that's super important that Sean Hannity is not paying attention to. Affordability. This is where Trump failed with his war with Iran. He didn't finish it. He's only kicking the can down the road. And it asked the big question about maritime law now and the right of passage through straits. Trump failed in Iran. Trump failed with the tariff policy. Hopefully, Trump will get his act together and get everything done. Look at what's happening with the White House. It's in a state of construction continuously. That needs to end. That needs to get the job done. And I want him to act a little bit more presidential, a little bit more polished. But he's far better than Harris. So, yes, we do have problems. And Americans do have an affordability crisis here. But a big part of it was all the spending that took place during the COVID years. And we're living through it. When you have these huge programs, it causes inflation. And it takes years, if not decades, to get it through the system. We're still trying to unravel the balance sheet from Lehman with the Federal Reserve. These interventionist policies take years to rectify, if ever. And it's really a condition of taking pain now or suspending the pain and having it last for a longer duration. That's what happened with Lehman. That's what happened with COVID when it came with all this fiscal stimulus. But people have problems with affordability. People will have problems getting good jobs under AI, especially when the demand for labor starts to go down. I'm concerned that the aggregate demand in the economy will go down too. So a lot of problems are happening. So individuals that have anxiety because of the economic situation will gravitate to these progressives. And the ones that are getting the most notoriety from the progressive movement are the ultra-liberal socialists. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and detoxify your body. You can do that by taking zeolite. Take 3 small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, do that daily. This zeolite you can take every day. Some zeolite out there you can't. This you can. Now, zeolite will bind to heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals and allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. That way, you're helping your immune system and your endocrine system. Detoxifying your body regularly is super important. Another way to detoxify your body is to take the heirloom barley. Heirloom barley will detoxify, soak up free radicals, and bring down inflammation. That's really important for your immune system and your endocrine system. They'll help with joints to reduce inflammation. They'll help you to recover after a workout. It'll even help with your cardiovascular health and your brain function. Why? Because you're soaking up free radicals, bringing down inflammation, reducing plaque formation. And by soaking up free radicals and reducing inflammation at the brain level, you're keeping your neurons healthy and reducing amyloidosis and plaque buildup. You're reducing your chances of dementia. So please go to my store, get the heirloom barley. Now, you can also take the gladiator barley instead. You get all the benefits in gladiator barley as you have in heirloom barley, but you get one added one, and that is to build muscle. Do resistance training and help you to build a muscle too. And you're going to be detoxifying your body, recovering after your workout quicker, bringing down inflammation, soaking up free radicals, helping with your immune system and your endocrine system, brain function, cardiovascular health. Super powerful stuff. And you can stack it with the Myotrol for added benefit. So please go to my store, detoxify your body regularly. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Let's listen to a Brit talking about the 4th of July.
Well, I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, Yankee Doodle do or die. I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, born on the 4th of July. As it happens, my youngest son Sixtus is born on the 4th of July, and I'm delighted that the Americans are celebrating his birthday with such verve and panache. 250 years ago, the British weren't necessarily so in favour of this rebellion. They thought that the colonists were misbehaving. We fought a war to try and keep them under the crown. And the Americans blamed poor old George III, harmless old, mad in the end, George III, for what happened and their departure. Some people in this country were very pro the Americans and thought that they were English gentlemen who deserved to be treated properly. Who was in that category? Well, Edmund Burke was in that category. Pitt the Elder was broadly in that category too, as was the Marquis of Rockingham, who was Prime Minister before and after the American Revolution. It was a fundamentally important event and a great event in the development of mankind, but one seeped in the history and traditions of the United Kingdom or Great Britain.
I started a business to give old clothes, many of them, and Chase has supported me from the beginning.
Which foundation is good for a steamy situation? All right, it's a hot pot date. Hot pot date, got it. House labs, it's waitlist, but
Of the United Kingdom, or Great Britain as it then was, England, that had been the birthplace of Great Britain and later the United Kingdom. And this is the fascinating thing about the American Revolution and why Englishmen should celebrate it and look with pride on what has happened since. Because what happened was that the Americans said they were English gentlemen who just happened to live in another place, and they wanted the rights of Englishmen. They wanted taxation with representation. They felt that they should be sending members to Parliament. Edmund Burke pointed out that there was a precedent for people living abroad being able to send MPs. That is to say, up until the reign of Mary Tudor, Mary I, people living in Calais had sent members to Parliament, to the House of Commons, and that this right should have been extended to the colonialists in what was to become the United States. Because when they rebelled, they then looked to draw up a constitution which was an aim to perfect the British Constitution. And you see that if you read the American Constitution. One example that comes so strongly to mind is the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, as you all know, is the right to bear arms. And we argue about this endlessly, don't we? We look rather smugly at America and think that there they are with their guns and they shoot each other and it's a dangerous place and they have lots more murders than We do, and we're so nice and safe, and we regulate guns. But the Second Amendment is directly drawn from the English Bill of Rights of 1689. In the English Bill of Rights, we maintain the right to bear arms for the maintenance of a Protestant militia. The word Protestant is deleted from the American Bill of Rights, but they were copying what we had done. And why had we done it? Why is it there? It's not there so that Americans can shoot each other or be dangerous. It's because they were suspicious of an overmighty state. In 1689, we looked at France, we looked at Louis XIV, we looked at absolute monarchs, and we thought this is dangerous, and we have to be able to stop it if necessary, and the way to stop it is by having a militia that is armed and has its own arms. And we thought that it would be a Catholic, totalitarian, and therefore it's the maintenance of a Protestant militia. America was frightened of the same thing as it drew up its constitution. It saw that it had been an historic risk, and it wanted to be able to maintain by popular democratic force, if necessary, the new state that it was creating. But it also, in the Bill of Rights to the Constitution, codified rights that the English thought they had, but actually sometimes find and found at that time, but continue to find, we have more in theory sometimes than in practice. So freedom of speech is defended in the First Amendment. It is a protection to ensure that people are allowed to criticise the government. Government here stops regulating the internet. It suggested that it will force us to watch the BBC by making the online operatives put the BBC at the head of the queue. It feels it can interfere to shove propaganda down our throats. America, trying to protect the British Constitution, makes that impossible. It also protected the rights of people who might be charged aggressively by the state. That is to say, the Fifth Amendment means you don't have to give evidence against yourself. This used to be a pretty strong right in this country too, but has been attacked at the edges because the state finds it more convenient to be able to use non-cooperation as evidence. So out of that rebellion came an attempt to perfect the British Constitution. And it's got some bits of historic interest that are no longer relevant. So titles of nobility are not allowed. That's because they didn't want to have a House of Lords and they didn't want to have a king. Bills of attainder, acts of attainder are not allowed. We basically stopped using those by the time of the American Revolution, but they were still in the historic mind at that point. They were still reasonably contemporary. So they're specifically prohibited in the American Constitution. It's quite fun, I think, to look at these obsessions of the day that have turned out to be utterly unimportant. Now, there were some bad things in the American Constitution, that slaves counted as less than a person for the purposes of drawing up boundaries for Congress. And that was not a problem we had in England. So that's not drawing on the British Constitution. And it's not, of course, a full democracy at that point, nor were we. But the structures were seeming to perfect what we already had. As it happens, I think neither system is perfect, and they have essentially parallel flaws. Ours is that our constitution is too easy to change because of the sovereignty of the king in parliament. Theirs is that the judges ultimately make the law because of a codified written constitution, which has stymied Donald Trump, for example, in being unable to take away birthrights.
When you picture the future of work, what do you see? We see Samuel.
Being unable to take away birthright citizenship. We were able to take that away in this country because the king in parliament is sovereign. Actually, when it was done, it was the queen in parliament. So you've got those differences. But my goodness, how well our two constitutions have done in making the world rich, successful, and safe. Because I'm absolutely convinced, to go back as always to Sir John Fortescue, that your constitutional settlement determines your prosperity. That if the state, the king, is beneath the law, as is the case both in the United Kingdom and in the United States, then when you make money, when you prosper, at that point, it's yours, not somebody else's. And therefore you have an incentive to till your land that little bit harder, to work that extra hour, to invest in new machinery, to come up with innovative ideas, because it's yours. That's the key constitutional protection combined with the common law. The common law's basic principle is so glorious and so opposite to that of the civil code that it is fundamental to our prosperity, and that is that it is legal to do everything that isn't specifically prohibited. In the civil code, the broad principle is you can only do what is allowed. Why does that make such a difference? Because if you are allowed to do anything unless it's prohibited, new ideas can flourish. You can think up exciting things. You can have a go. You can try. If you fail, you haven't broken the law. Whereas in a continent, you may accidentally, inadvertently have broken a law. It's why the European Union economies are stagnating. They're failed. They managed to catch up after the war from basically zero, but they have been failing now for decades because they're so heavily regulated. The US economy reinvents itself every generation. So we celebrate, we join in the party, we eat some cake and possibly even open some champagne to wish our American brethren well. But we also think that we should learn from those who were once part of our great empire, that we should learn from how they've done it better in the last 250 years, particularly how they've done it better in the last 50 years, when we have essentially become more Europeanized, more heavily regulated, less free. Let us look at Americans' freedom.
More social. The socialists took over England.
Welcome them, readopt them, and then we can prosper as not our brethren, I think that's the wrong term, our offspring have benefited. But we should look with paternal pride on that most successful scion of the British Empire. God save the King, and God save President Trump too. Why not?
All right. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. C60 is a very potent antioxidant. Take a teaspoon a day every day, preferably on an empty stomach for best absorption. What this will do is soak up free radicals at the cellular level and at the tissue level. And what happens is that those cells and tissues will perform better. The mitochondria in the cells will produce more ATP because you're soaking up those free radicals, less inflammation in the cell, less inflammation in the tissues. So your organ systems will perform better. Your immune system and endocrine system will perform better. Your brain function will perform better. Your neural connections will improve because the neurons will have less inflammation and the mitochondria in the neuron will improve. You'll have more ATP to produce those neurotransmitters. And by soaking up free radicals at the vascular level, you're reducing plaque formation. So please go to my store, get the C60. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. It is cheaper per ounce to get the higher ounce configuration. You can get an MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, and extra virgin olive oil. Please go to my store and get the C60. Now let's listen to Fox News saying confront the threat. Trump urged to take action against communism.
Right behind those ladies who are singing, 104 years old. We all almost fell off of our chairs last night when we were reporting, and they said he was 104 years old because he looked and sounded amazing. At the end of their singing, he said, "You know, I've always thought I was a lucky guy. I'm a lucky guy tonight." And looking at those beautiful ladies, it was a fun moment.
He was. That was the best of the spirit of Fox News' Freedom Bunker.
That's right. The spirit remained high in the Freedom Bunker during a brief weather evacuation. Despite the rain, thousands returned back to the National Mall last night.
Showing the American resilience, a key theme of President Trump's speech honoring America's greatest heroes.
From the beginning, we were a nation that lived by the motto, victory or death, and live free or die. 1 out of every 100 Americans gave their lives in the fight for independence. He helped lead a surprise attack on 100 enemy combatants. They said he was finished. And this evening he stands to salute the only flag of its kind, the one that was draped over the casket of President Abraham Lincoln. Captain Schubring is here tonight, and he is saluting the flag that went down with the Arizona at Pearl Harbor, who was raised back up.
Fox News contributor Hugh Hewitt joins us now. So great to see you this morning, Hugh. So the president had a spectacular speech at Mount Rushmore on Friday night, and then that speech last night. Give us a grade on how you think the president did bringing in America 250.
Well, good morning, friends. He got a double A because, as you noted, on Friday night he's at Mount Rushmore, gave a terrific speech with Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and TR behind him. Flies back to D.C., gets a rain delay and a thunderstorm, gives another terrific speech. And I just want to salute whoever helped him and whatever came out of that speech. I'll remember him recognizing Sergeant William Graves from the battle at Morris Island back in 1863, I believe. And then we go up to Colonel Paris Davis in Vietnam, Medal of Honor recipient as well, saluting the flag on Lincoln's casket. Then we got the Pearl Harbor veteran, we've got the Normandy veteran, we got the Iwo Jima veteran. That's an extraordinary bit of craftsmanship. So the drama of Friday night and Saturday night, I just want to remark, you guys work long hours, sometimes I work long hours. I don't know how the president does that from Mount Rushmore on Friday night to D.C. on Saturday night, rain delay, and knock it out of the park. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, his energy is just off the charts. Everyone wants to know, where does it come from? You talked about these battles. The president saying we have another battle on our hands, communism, which has been totally normalized in the Democrat Party. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll get your thoughts on the other side of this clip.
The entire world has been on notice that Americans will never let anyone take our freedom away. It won't happen. And all these talks from the communists, they haven't got a chance. Not even a chance. The communist system is the opposite of the American system, and the communist system has never worked. Our warriors did not fight communism on battlefields across the world, only to have that menace rear its ugly head right back here in America. We're not going to let it happen.
He also said communism is for losers, talking about how it's never worked. But it seems like for young people in particular, they need to relearn that lesson. The president's taking this head on, right?
I think he is, and I'm glad he is. He did it both at Mount Rushmore, did it last night on the Mall. Rip off the gift wrapping. Rip off all the idea of, oh, we'll give a lot of stuff away. Confront the fact, as he did, communism has never worked anywhere. And whether it's Mayor Mamdani or Ms. Chevalier in New York City, whether it's Ms. Kiros in Denver, or whether it's Graham Plattner or self-described communist up in Maine, rip the gift wrapping off and look at the fact that I think he said it murdered 100 million people in the last century. That's low. It's about 120 million as far as I understand it. It always fails. And he was so right, not just to celebrate the Declaration, but also the righteousness of our Constitution. I think that might be my favorite line in both speech. He saluted the righteousness of our Constitution. Well done in both cases, but I especially like get a hold of the beautifully wrapped box, open it up, it's empty, there are only bones in there. The desiccated dry bones of failed regimes and tyrants. I think he did it again and again, both at Rushmore and on the Mall, and I welcome it because that's what November is about, what every election is about. Do we want liberty or do we want slavery?
Such a great point, and for the critics of what the president did last night, it must be hard for them because how could you not support the patriotism and sacrifice? Hugh Hewitt, thank you very much. Thanks, Hugh.
Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you, friends. Have a great one.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News late.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost has 68 nutrients that will help to improve your cardiovascular health, brain function, musculature, rev up your metabolism, help you to control your A1C levels, improve your immune system and your endocrine system. Boomer Boost has the vitamins, the minerals, and other supplements to slow down the aging process. This is super important to take every day. Use this in replacement of your multivitamin. But you need to take it every day. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's a great supplement, and you will notice that you have a steady burn of energy throughout the whole day. When you start taking this, you will feel the effects of it within 72 hours. And if you do it regularly, you will start to notice that other systems in your body are performing better. So please go to my store and get the Boomer Boost. You can stack it with the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley for max benefit. Collagen. Collagen will help to improve your skin, your hair, your nails, your musculature, your bone density, even your joints. Take it every day. Drink it with filtered water. And if you follow this protocol, this works really well with your skin. You can take the collagen and stack it with the vitamin C and magnesium. Drink filtered water. The water and the vitamin C with the collagen will help to cross-link and improve your dermal layer. To improve the topical layer of your skin, use the structural nanosilver gel. And to improve the dermal layer, use the C60 with the resveratrol. You stack that all together, you're supercharging your skin. Please go to my store and get the collagen. And if you have arthritis through a sports injury or osteoarthritis, if you have a muscle pull or a sprain or even tension headaches, take the Super Strong Relief. It's a topical. You rub it in the area of the pain and it will cut the pain or diminish the pain within 90 seconds. It's a great way to reduce arthritic pain, muscle aches, and tension headaches. Please go to my store and get the Super Strong Relief. Make sure you use discount 5 and you get $5 off on any order. All right, let's see here. What? MS Now is complaining about Trump pushing the voter restriction bill ahead of the midterms.
We've seen a dramatic slowdown in our fundraising. So I'm reaching out to humbly ask you to make a donation to our people.
As President Trump refuses to move on from the big lie that the 2020 election was rigged, he's also laying the groundwork to cast doubt on the integrity of future elections. According to documents obtained by MS Now's Ken Delanian, FBI Director Kash Patel directed 260 FBI analysts to Georgia this week in an investigation related to the 2020 election results in Fulton County, Georgia. Asked what analysts would be looking for, one of the officials said, quote, "Looking for derogatory information is the short answer. The idea is to build a case." Translation, they kind of make things up as they go. As courts have repeatedly rejected Trump's baseless claims of election fraud. Trump has also continued his push for his voter restriction bill, the Save America Act. He made it a centerpiece of his July 4th remarks last night as he argued without evidence that the measure is necessary to prevent non-citizen voting.
We want to keep America great, and we will do so by approving the Save America Act, which means all voters must show voter ID. All voters must provide.
What is wrong with all voters showing ID? What's wrong with that? Oh, it stops election fraud.
They call proof of citizenship.
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Joe Morelli of New York. He's the ranking member on the House
You have to
Administration Committee.
You have to remember, the Democratic Socialists of America, the ultra liberals, they believe in open borders, not kicking out illegal immigrants. And, well, wait a minute, let's think about this. All dwellers in the United States should be able to vote. Well, what's the point of what's the point of citizenship then? They want to destroy the country because they believe in stacking the deck. No, we need to have voter. We need to prove that you're a citizen, and we need to prove that you can vote. What's wrong with that? Anyone that says that, oh, you could just vote and there's no reason for proof. Well, wait a minute. Why are you not wanting to prove the individual that is going to vote unless you want to play games with the election? Come on.
Congressman Morelli, thank you for coming to the weekend. Just your reaction to the president insisting that there be voter ID to stop non-citizen voting. Is that even a thing?
No, it's really not. I feel, it's pretty sad when the leader of America cannot accept the fact that he lost the 2020 election. And this is what this is really all about. He just can't.
We had dead people voting. They always seem to be voting Democrat, though. We literally had dead people voting. How can that happen? How's that acceptable?
Emotionally get past it. So he has his entire government directed at trying to find evidence that doesn't exist and trying to make sure that the midterm verdict isn't what it was in 2020. And Americans are getting tired of this. And I think they're remembering why in 2020 they threw him out of the White House. And so,
well, wait a minute here. If there's no evidence, then you don't have anything to worry about. But why is it that MS Now is spending all this money to push in the news that Trump's doing this if there's no evidence? Probably because there is evidence. People that weren't allowed to vote were voting, either because they're dead or illegals or weren't registered. There's a multitude of reasons. And then in the mail-in ballots, it seems so ironic, so suspicious that most of the mail-in ballots go for candidates that are not Republican. Wait a minute, how is this? How is this? There's fraudulent activity happening. Now, when you take a look at that jump diffusion in terms of the 2020 election, that jump diffusion also happens in countries that they're playing games with the machines to bias the vote. That's the sign. That's the sign. It's those jump diffusions where you have it tracking and converging into a certain trajectory between candidates. And then all of a sudden, at a certain time of the day, usually at night, while everyone's sleeping, there's a big jump diffusion. They found some ballots somewhere. There's impropriety going on.
terrified of the midterm elections that he will do anything he can to divert attention away and to try to stop many Americans from voting. That's what the whole thing, Save America Act is about, his executive orders are about, the probe in Georgia, and who knows what else. I should think that we will expect for the next several months just to see wave after wave of things that Donald Trump will try to do to stop.
What American won't be able to prove that they should be able to vote? How would they register? Wait a minute, we're asking, you get deeper into the weeds here and you start showing that there are problems at the state level. When you register to vote, you have to prove who you are. Now, if you can't do that when you're registering, Why are you already registered then? Why are you allowed to vote? You need to prove that who you are. So there's already a system in place so you can register to vote. Why is he pushing back on Trump saying during the election day, you show who you are? You had to do that to register with the state at the state level. You can't vote unless you're registered. So what's the problem here? Oh, games. Games. You can play games with the election when you don't really pay attention to the one that's going in to vote. That's actually you. And it's even worse with the mail-in ballot. My understanding is that for you to become registered, you have to show proof of citizenship. There are many ways to do that. Social security number, passport, whatever. Okay, but you have to prove it. Why can't? Why is he saying that there's going to be this group of people that won't be able to vote because of this? How could that be? Everyone that votes has to be registered. If you're not registered, and even if you're a citizen, even before this with Trump, they weren't allowed to vote. What's the problem here? What is the problem? Why are they pushing back on it?
Americans from voting.
I mean, he can't even get Republicans to sign on to the statement at this point. So even they are not tricked by him, at least at this point. You've mentioned that he is going to do anything he can, and that is a concern that states have across the country. This is a USA Today headline from this morning. States don't expect feds to reliably share election threats. Quote, state election officials do not expect the federal government to.
There's a bigger issue. See, if you look at the census of who's in the country, who's a citizen, and you start comparing it to who's registered, and if there's gross mismatch, you have to remember states get congressional seats based on population and the money and the representation from the federal government. So the smaller your population, less representation. Smaller your population, most likely you'll have problems getting funding. So juicing up the population number is really important. Now, you do the census every 10 years, and it's based on that. But if you get other data sets, like what the real registration number is for voting, and you compare the two, you probably will start to notice that certain states are faking their population numbers, and they're greasing the skids with illegals.
We share election threat information during the midterm elections, according to Internal National Association of Secretaries of State documents obtained exclusively by USA Today. Now, we know foreign countries dilly-dally, interfere, meddle in each other's elections. We do it as well. So when you hear this, that the secretary.
And what's the sign when that happens? A jump diffusion with these machines, voting machines, which is what we saw in 2020. And you see this repeatedly in certain local elections when there seems to be this late count with mail-in ballots. Why all of a sudden? You have everyone that's voting normally converging on a certain path. One candidate is above the other, and it's converging. And then all of a sudden, the mail-in ballots come in, and it's all for heavily biased to one candidate, and it just so happens to have the candidate that was losing before the new count with the mail-in ballots. All of a sudden, they jump and win. Why is that? Yet, that's what we saw with Venezuela. Same issue. Jump diffusions with these machines are a statistical sign of impropriety.
The state across the country are worried that they are not going to get what they need to protect the votes of the American people from the federal government. What comes to mind for you?
Well, look, for so long, we have relied upon the federal government and its agencies, Department of Justice, Homeland Security, to protect Americans from any threats to our election. And local administrators rely on it as well. The president has dismantled all of that. And now the aggressors are the Department of Justice, the FBI. So we're working very closely in the House under the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries with civil society groups, with pro-democracy groups. There's a network around the country of attorneys and volunteers and groups that are doing everything they can in conjunction with local election administrators, with our secretaries of state, with our boards of elections to make sure that there's no interruption in the work that they do. And I have to say that election administrators, Democrats and Republicans at the local level across this country care deeply about what they do. They want to do this as well as they can. They think it's almost part of their sacred obligation to our democracy. So they're looking for resources, and we're doing everything we can to provide them, recognizing that this is the first time in American history that the federal government is armed against the right to vote. I mean, they want to basically pick the voters so that they get the results that they want. And we're doing everything we can. We're working literally daily with groups around the country to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Congressman, right now, Democrats are on the defense when it comes to the Trump administration's efforts to try to interfere with the current upcoming elections and relitigate past elections, the 2020 election that never ends. It's essentially like Dems are playing whack-a-mole here. If House Democrats, if you all do happen to take back the majority in November, legislatively and investigatively, what is the plan to be on offense when it comes to election administration?
Well, it is a big question, Jackie. Thank you for asking. We're going to start right in January. I'll be convening hearings of my committee, which has jurisdiction over federal elections. We'll be looking at ways to empower voters to make sure that the electoral system isn't hijacked by billionaires. And the Supreme Court, this decision this week, which will allow the coordination between political parties and super PACs and candidates, is just another nail in the coffin to our electoral system. It's not as bad as Citizens United, but that's a pretty high bar. It's pretty bad. And it's going to have the influence of people like Elon Musk and others who will just pour hundreds of millions of dollars. So in January, we're going to pass the largest anti-corruption, pro-democracy bill that we've seen in America since Watergate. That's my commitment. I've been working very closely, not only with Leader Jeffries, but with the entire Democratic caucus. And that's what we'll do, because this has to end. Americans are going to lose their voice. We celebrate the 250th anniversary of self-government, this amazing idea that for 2.5 centuries has guided us. And it's on the precipice of falling apart because of a president who neither understands America nor the presidency, and certainly doesn't have any respect for democracy.
Congressman Joe Morale, thank you so much. And I'm sure we will be in close touch with you ahead of November.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver toothpaste. This will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce inflammation at the gum line, improve your gum line, neutralize because it has the structural nano silver, improve the health of your oral cavity. And when you have good oral cavity health, you're reducing cardiovascular problems and valvular problems. So please go to my store, get the structural nano silver toothpaste. Again, this helps to neutralize and has no fluoride in it. Use it every day, especially during the winter season. Structural nano silver gels, really important for the allergy season and the cold season. You can get the tube form or the quick dispenser form. It's dual purpose. You can use it as a daily skincare. You can put it on a cut. It'll help to heal a wound quicker. And it'll stay active for 5.5 hours. You can put it on your hands, around your eyes, around your ears, around your mouth, around your nose, lightly coat your nostrils to help to neutralize allergens and to help you weather the cold season. So please go to my store, get the structural nano silver gels. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. All right, what else is going on in the world? Let's listen to Dr. Gad Syed.
And as socialism gains traction with young voters and far left activists, Gad Saad, who happens to seem to be Elon Musk's favorite author, recently was on my podcast where he discussed why he believes communism is incompatible with human nature. Anyway, he's the author of Suicidal Empathy. Professor Gad Saad is with us. I think Elon has promoted your book more than any one person in the world. In light of the discussion I just had with Bill de Blasio and John Fetterman, and your book, which I read cover to cover, and your experience living in Canada as you described it on my podcast, what's your political takeaway?
Well, as we discussed on your show, Sean, there are sound bites that sound nice coming from socialism. Sharing is caring. It's unfair that some people have more money than other people. Shouldn't there be an empathetic overlord that comes along and, recalibrates income distribution? That sounds nice if I were a 5-year-old child in kindergarten. But in the real world, where we recognize that there are differences across people, we are a hierarchical species. Some of us are harder working, less harder working, taller, shorter, better looking, less better looking. To try to impose a socio-political economic system that is contrary to our human nature is always going to fail. But that notwithstanding, there's always a new generation of imbeciles that are going to fall prey to the allure of the message of socialism.
Okay, so the main question is, let me go back to the questions I was bringing to former Mayor de Blasio. They want to seize the means of production. They want to seize private property. They want to abolish the police. They want to abolish America's prisons, America's borders. They don't even want criminal illegals that commit murder and rape and are convicted deported. Can that party win in this country?
Well, they can if there is a sufficiently large number of people who have been infected by the parasitic form of suicidal empathy, right? It's mean to not give felons a 147th chance again. It's mean to not allow all illegal immigrants who want to participate in American exceptionalism to not be granted an opportunity. So if you view the world through the prisms of suicidal empathy, then that message will resonate with people. And by the way, today is Canada Day, but hopefully soon I will be celebrating July 4th as a fellow American.
Well, congratulations. Whatever name, whatever manifestation, whatever form, socialism, statism, redistributionism, communism, whatever you want to call it, it seems to always end up with the same results. Unfulfilled promises. You end up with more poverty than before. You then calculate how much freedom you gave up in the name of false security. Why is it so appealing to people to think that, we'll empower government officials to take this group of people's money, their hard work, their success, and we'll give it to another group of people, and then the politicians become all powerful?
Because it depends what is the metric that you're trying to optimize, right? If your goal is to create equality or as close to as possible of equality of incomes, then that message resonates well. It's unfair that Elon Musk makes a lot more money than some other guy who's on food stamps. But if you recognize that the most direct way for optimal flourishing, both at the individual level and at the collective level, is through capitalism, then you will be optimizing a different metric. And so, but again, this is why it is such an alluring message, because there's always going to be an AOC and a Bernie Sanders that points to those people on top of the hill and says, it's unfair that they make so much money. Let's get them to their fair taxes, even though they pay most of the taxes.
I've got to believe in my heart and soul that
most Americans have enough common sense to reject this form of radicalism. We'll know a lot more in the midterm. That said, thank you, sir.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and fight socialism. Get the great products that I offer, help support the channel, and help support your health and wellness. Get the Max 35, Cleanse, or Max 14. These will help to boost up your innate immune system. So you take either the Max 35, Max 14, or Cleanse, take a teaspoon a day every day, swish it in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds, and swallow it. It will neutralize, improve your oral cavity, improve your oral pharynx, help your mucosal layer. Maintain that layer is super important, and help the health of your epithelial cells in your oral pharynx. By doing that, you're boosting up your innate immune system. I've been doing this protocol for over 6 years every day. Really important to do. So please go to my store, get the Max 35, Max 14, or Cleanse. Take it every day. Now you can stack the following as a great way to slow down the aging process. The Max 35, 14, or Cleanse to boost up that innate immune system. The probiotics to help the gut biome. C60 to soak up free radicals and bring down inflammation. Take the turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans together to help with the cardiovascular health of your immune system and boost up your endocrine system. And Boomer Boost, rev up your cellular metabolism. You'll have a steady burn of energy. It helps with brain function, musculature, energy levels, cardiovascular health, immune system, endocrine system. You take those together every day, you're going to slow down the aging process. Now, you get all the vitamins, you get all the minerals that you need. You're soaking up free radicals, bringing down inflammation. You're targeting the aspects of aging to improve your cells and your tissues to reduce the aging methylation process. When you do that, you'll have a compound effect day after day, year after year, and you will see in the mirror, and you will feel it, and you will notice that you have more vitality and more longevity. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. That's the end of my broadcast. Happy 4th of July. And it's really important that Americans understand that we have a constitutional republic that is predicated on the Enlightenment. And it's about God, country, and family. And that socialism is unacceptable. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.